How a pizza girl's amazing act transformed a ruined life no programmer could save. Emma wiped her brow as she stood in front of the bustling kitchen at Pizzas R Us. The heat from the ovens mingled with the aroma of cheese and pepperoni, igniting memories of family dinners long gone. At 30, her life had diverged from the beautiful dreams she'd once entertained. A loving husband, secure finances, a bright future. After Dan's sudden passing, her heart felt like it had crumbled alongside everything else. Two young children depended on her, putting food on the table with a smile plastered on her face while battling resentment brewing beneath the surface. "I'm fine," she whispered to herself, but a sense of unease crept into her thoughts like a shadow, lengthening with every delivery run she made. With a delivery order to the tech giant Ducors, she felt a mix of exhilaration and dread. As she entered the sleek, cold lobby, her heart raced, not from the excitement, but the anxiety of entering a world that felt so out of reach. Rounding a corner, she overheard the CEO and executives in a hushed, urgent discussion. Each word was a brick in what she felt was a growing wall around her. "If we delay this feature rollout," one executive said, "the testing protocols will be ignored. It's not just a numbers game anymore. Families, kids, it could affect everything." Her stomach lurched. This was a dangerous oversight, potentially devastating lives. Dan had lost his job here. The very company that had promised innovation had finally shown its true colors. Loyalty thrummed through her veins like a lifeline, tangled with anger. Should she remain silent and protect her status as a delivery girl, or risk it all for justice? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With the weight of her discovery pressing down, she kept pushing forward, trying to ease the pain with work. Mr. Hawkins, her mentor, encouraged her to dive into programming, a hope she never imagined exploring. Yet every keystroke echoed the fear of failure, of being the voice of truth in a tech world that seemed to drown out the struggles of ordinary families. Her newfound passion was a light, but each flicker was accompanied by the choking dread of potential repercussions from Ducors. The more she learned, the more she felt invincible and helpless at once. They were both sides of a coin she was meant to flip. Would they come after her for exposing them? What might happen to her kids, burdened with the weight of this knowledge? The idea churned in her stomach until midnight's quietude draped her like a heavy blanket. Just when she thought she couldn't take it anymore, a video of her confronting the executives went viral. The tide began to turn in her favor, but the backlash came swiftly, like icy water over a flame. Standing before the press, Emma's heart raced, pondering the steep price of her battle. Would sharing her truth destroy her fragile world? Uncertainty gripped her like chains, squeezing tighter as cameras focused like hunters locking onto a target. Was her courage enough to shatter the corporate glasshouse, or had she merely set herself and her children in the line of fire? As she stood on that stage, breath shallow and pulse pounding, Emma realized she teetered on the brink of a life-altering decision that could haunt her or liberate her. The moment was hers, the stakes impossibly high. Emma stepped down from the podium, her heart still thundering in her chest. The press conference was over, but the whirlwind of emotion swirled in her mind like a chaotic storm. Questions clawed at her consciousness. Had she just sacrificed her family's safety for a fleeting moment of bravado? The thrill of standing up for the truth battled with the dread of potential retaliation from Ducors. Her phone buzzed incessantly in her pocket as she walked briskly through the lobby. News outlets were calling, people were texting, and each notification felt like a weight pressing her down further. Amidst the chaos, Mr. Hawkins reached out, his voice steady but concerned. "Emma, I saw your speech. You were bold, and that takes courage. But you know this won't be easy." With each word, she felt the weight of his worry and the gravity of her own actions. "It's just, I had to do something. Too many lives are at stake," she replied, trying to find strength in her conviction. But doubt lingered. Was it enough? Was she strong enough to carry this burden? It was at that moment, a flicker of resolve ignited within her. She decided her next move wouldn't be dictated by fear, but by purpose. Emma needed to equip herself with knowledge to articulate her concerns with clarity that couldn't be shaken. Programming had become her refuge, and she resolved to dive deeper into it. This knowledge might give her a platform to expose the truth without compromising her family's safety. Navigating through the world of code was a labyrinth, but she had a map now. Back home, as her children played with their toys, she sat with her laptop in the dim light of the kitchen. It felt as if she had exchanged the clutter of takeout menus and pizza boxes for the precision of coding boot camps and digital forums. Each line she typed was a pathway to a stronger sense of self. Every algorithm she wrote represented her fight against an indifferent corporate machine. Days turned into weeks, and the ripple effect of her press conference yielded unexpected currents. Emma began receiving messages of support. People inspired by her boldness reached out, sharing their stories of corporate exploitation and despair. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was a community of unseen workers caught within the corporate grind. They looked to her, seeing in her courage a flicker of hope for change. It struck her. Maybe if she combined her growing technical skills with their stories, she could build something impactful. Collating the data from the shared experiences of others, she began to write a blog, a chronicle of corporate malfeasance and personal narratives intertwined. She put her programming skills to use by creating an online platform where these stories could be documented, helping families like hers find their voice. The platform became a sanctuary of truth, a place where the collective knowledge could shine a spotlight on how businesses sometimes prioritize profit over people. But just as she settled into this new rhythm, a message came through that made her pulse quicken, a threat veiled in legal jargon from DoCorp's legal team. They were aware of her efforts and warned her about the consequences of defamation. Her heart sank. The shadows of fear crept back, threatening to consume the light she had started to nurture. Emma found herself at a crossroads. Would she stifle her voice, retreating into the safety of silence, or would she confront this challenge head-on? The stakes were higher than ever, not just for her, but for everyone caught in the grasp of corporate greed. Courage boiled within her once more, ignited by the pressing urgency of her mission. It was time to choose. Would she dare to amplify the truth at the risk of everything she had built, or would fear pull her back into obscurity? As the glow of the computer screen illuminated her determined expression, the next chapter of her life awaited, filled with uncertainty yet brimming with potential. The moment of truth was approaching, and Emma knew she would have to prepare for the confrontation she had been evading. The stakes were now not just her family and her fight, but a movement that could change the lives of many. Would she be ready to face the consequences? Days dragged into a fog of uncertainty, each dawn shrouded in a growing weight of her choices. Emma sat at her desk, the glow of her laptop bathing her face in a pale light, her fingers poised over the keyboard yet frozen by mounting trepidation. The legal threat loomed large, a dark cloud overhead, threatening to unleash a storm that could obliterate everything she had fought for. She reread the message from DoCorp, its words slicing through her resolve like a knife. Defamation. Consequences. The company was wielding its legal power as a weapon, but what struck her most was the realization of their fear. They were afraid of her voice, of the truth she was cultivating. Perhaps that was where her strength lay. The fear they sought to instill could also be her greatest catalyst. Determined, she closed her eyes and inhaled deeply, the breath a lifeline in a whirlpool of chaos. This wasn't merely about her anymore. It was about the countless unnamed faces behind testimonials of pain and suffering. Those employees who felt voiceless and battered by corporate indifference. She would not let their stories be silenced by fear. Emma pivoted, her intent solidified into a tangible plan. Every tragic account she had collected over recent weeks transformed into fuel, driving her to push forward. She envisioned not just a blog, but a comprehensive resource, an online repository where victims of corporate malpractice could safely share their narratives, seek legal advice, and find solidarity. This would not just be a platform, it would be a lifeline. She dove back into her coding with renewed vigor. Lines of code transformed into intricate pathways, weaving together a network for each individual story. It took relentless hours, a blur of caffeine, late-night brows furrowing in concentration, and the soft hum of the computer. In those moments, her determination eclipsed fear, and for the first time, she felt a sense of control blossoming, an unexpected empowerment arising where once there had been only despair. But self-doubt still nipped at her heels. She wrestled with the potential consequences of her actions. Would DoCorps retaliate? What if they targeted her family? The visions haunted her, mixing with an inner dialogue that questioned her worthiness for this fight. What made her any different from the faceless employees who had failed to stand up? She wasn't a lawyer or a seasoned activist. Yet each statistic she read, every name she processed, ignited a fire within, reminding her that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the will to act despite it. Amongst the creation of her platform, Emma reached out to a few allies who shared her vision. Mr. Hawkins became one of her most steadfast supporters. His legal acuity offered her guidance, and over video calls, the two strategized on how to fortify the site against potential threats. Together, they drafted disclaimers and legal frameworks that could provide some measure of protection. As the site neared completion, a buzz of excitement pulsed through her. The prospect of culmination, of launching a haven for untold stories, filled the air with possibility. Just as she felt her heart swell with hope, another message trickled into her inbox. This one, markedly different from the last, made her breath hitch. It was a response from a whistleblower who had worked inside DoCorps. The message hinted at hidden layers of corruption, model practices disguised as benign, and a breathtaking level of negligence that could turn the tide of public opinion. Emma's pulse raced. The weight of this revelation bore down heavily. It could be the key, the very leverage she needed to both validate her own journey and embolden others to share their truths. But with such a bombshell came a perilous question. Would she expose the information at personal risk, emboldened by the truth, or would fear once again attempt to bind her? As she stared at the blinking cursor, she knew a decision had to be made. The crossroads of courage awaited once more, the potential to either amplify or silence the truth echoing in the silence of her kitchen. The moment had arrived. Would she step into the light, prepared to tackle the shadows that threatened her? Or would she retreat, allowing fear to douse the flicker of hope she had ignited? Emma inhaled deeply, her heart resolute, yet uncertainty still swirled within. She was ready to find out just how far the truth could carry her, and who would come along for the ride. Emma's heart raced as she reread the whistleblower's email, her mind a storm of conflicting emotions. This was it, a chance to unravel the threads of deception woven through DoCorp. The urgency clawed at her, a mix of exhilaration and dread knotting her stomach. Should she act discreetly, gathering more evidence, or leap forward and expose them directly? The room felt stifling, the dark walls closing in as the weight of her decision pressed heavily on her chest. Each heartbeat echoed the stakes, the lives intertwined in those hidden stories, the vision of her platform as a beacon of justice fluctuating alongside her resolve. Her fingers danced over the keyboard, crafting a response, yet she hesitated. What if this whistleblower's information was just the tip of the iceberg? A fleeting thought prickled her senses. It almost felt too easy. She paused to recall those countless hours of research, drafting testimonials, the faces of the marginalized employees etched in her mind. Their silence had cultivated this moment, and turning away now would betray those struggling with the same fears she faced. With a deep breath, Emma typed a cautious reply, thanking the whistleblower for their courage and proposing a voice and anonymity protocol for the information they were willing to provide. If she could deepen their collaboration while maintaining safety, it might bolster her causes. Each word felt like a step forward, a commitment to amplifying the truth instead of recoiling into fear. As the email vanished into the digital ether, a fire ignited within her. Emma sat back, feeling the pang of anticipation mixed with growing confidence. She drew on visualization techniques she had learned from self-help books, seeing herself standing before an audience, revealing the endemic flaws in Ducor, empowering the voiceless. In that moment, she was no longer a solitary programmer fighting against an intimidating Goliath. She was an advocate, a warrior armed with truth. Determined to establish a foundation for the platform she envisioned, she called Mr. Hawkins. His powerful voice filled the room through the speakerphone, reassuring her as he outlined legal strategies they could employ to safeguard her information and handle any potential fallout. Emma, once you go public, there's no turning back, he emphasized, his tone grave yet supportive. We need to build a robust defense. But remember, this is not just a fight for you, but for everyone silenced by corporate greed. Each word resonated deep within her. It was not merely about protection. It was about solidifying a foundation on which others could safely share their truths. She resolved to rewrite not just the narrative of her own life, but of those around her. Empowerment came from collective action, weaving their stories into a single thread of resistance. With newfound clarity, Emma returned to her laptop and opened the document detailing the project's structure. She adjusted the mission statement, emphasizing confidentiality, sharing raw stories without revealing identities, dispelling the risk of retaliation. She needed to create a fortress, not just around her project, but around every individual whose voice sought to echo out. As each line materialized, she felt the pieces fall into place. The culmination of her efforts was no mere blog. It was a solidarity forge for resilience, healing, and unmasking injustice. Every keystroke transformed doubt into determination, a bedrock of commitment that would rise against the looming shadows and uncertainties. Just as she finished, a notification interrupted her focus. A new message from the whistleblower. Her pulse quickened again. Instinctively, she could feel the stakes rising with every word. She clicked it open, dread mingling with hope. The reply was succinct, yet laced with urgency. I have more to tell. Meet me before you act. I can provide specifics you'll want to know. Emma's heart pounded. The enormity of the situation surged anew. Could she trust this stranger? What awaited her beyond this meeting? Another labyrinth of hidden truths? Or would this propel her further into the dogged fight she'd ignited? Undeniably drawn into the depths of this unfolding narrative, she knew one thing with certainty. To unveil the hidden layers of truth would require her to confront the very sources of her deepest fears. As she braced herself for the next steps, she stood at the precipice of her greatest challenge yet. The chance to discover not just what others had hidden, but to unearth the uncharted depths of her own resolve. The moment had come. She would not shy away. Would she grab the opportunity to meet the whistleblower and dive deeper into the abyss of deception? Or step back, veiled in doubt, allowing uncertainty to cloud her purpose? Emma took a steadying breath, ready to embrace the unknown. Emma stared at the blinking cursor on her screen, each tick marking time as she wrestled with conflicting convictions. Would meeting the whistleblower disclose hidden layers of corporate malfeasance or throttle her ambitions in a quagmire of uncertainty? The prospect of venturing into this raw uncertainty triggered an unexpected thrill mixed with trepidation. In a moment of decision, Emma reached for the phone. She dialed her closest confidant, Sarah, a fellow programmer who had always encouraged her fearless curiosity. As the phone rang, Emma felt her resolve solidify with each tone. If she was to navigate this path, she needed support. "Hey, Em, what's up?"
Sarah's upbeat voice provided immediate comfort. "Sarah, I think I'm about to meet someone who could change the whole course of what I'm doing with my project," Emma said, her words tumbling out before she could second-guess them. "A whistleblower. They have vital information about Ducors." "Seriously, that's huge. Are you ready?" Emma's certainty faltered for a moment. "I'm both terrified and excited. What if it turns out to be a wild goose chase? Or worse, what if I'm unprepared for what they reveal?" "Listen, you've been preparing for this. Just remember, you're not a lone wolf. You've got me and your network," Sarah reassured her. "Face your fears head on. That's how progress happens. Trust yourself." With every word Sarah spoke, it felt as though Emma's fears were peeling away like layers of an onion. The realization hit her. This meeting wasn't just a tactical maneuver. It was a sign of her growth. She was transitioning from a passive observer of corporate wrongs to an active participant in the fight. Hours later, she found herself in the back corner of a small cafe, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she waited. She surveyed the room. Each shadow cast across the floor felt like a reminder of the stakes involved. When the door swung open, her heart raced. A figure stepped inside, glancing around. Long, dark hair framed a sharp face, one exuding both apprehension and determination. Emma's instinct whispered for caution, but the recognition in the person's eyes reassured her. The whistleblower moved toward Emma's table, taking a seat without preamble. "Emma?" they asked, their voice barely above a whisper, dripping with urgency. "Yes, thank you for meeting me." The whistleblower leaned in, wary of eavesdroppers. "I have corporate documents and testimonies, the kind that'll hold weight in a public forum." Emma felt the breath hitch in her throat. What exactly are we looking at? Evidence of violations, retaliations against employees who tried to stand up. It goes deeper than you think, falsified reports even. With each word, the risk transformed from ominous shadows into tangible truth. Here lay the very foundation of her platform. Yet, lurking in the back of her mind was the ominous potential of retaliation. The enormity of their commitment weighed heavily as Emma realized that a fire was being kindled, one that could both illuminate and consume her. Do you have a way to protect yourself?" Emma asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I've been careful," they stated, eyes darting nervously towards the barista. "But they have eyes everywhere. If I'm exposed, I can't risk my job, or worse." The line between vulnerability and empowerment blurred, and yet Emma felt the power climb inside her. Could she protect this person while leveraging their truth? To take the next step, she needed to test her own resolve, pondering if she could be the voice breaking the silence. Suddenly, Emma was struck by an unsettling thought. Would her courage prevail, or would the system's historical resistance shatter her aspirations? Questions mounted like an avalanche, threatening to bury her. This moment not only marked the potential exposure of Ducors, but the blossoming of Emma's identity, a catalyst for change. With the stakes evolving rapidly, Emma would need to act fast and thoughtfully. As they thrashed out the details of how to proceed, a tumult of excitement raged in her chest. The moment not only felt like a step into the unknown, it felt like standing at the edge of an uncharted territory of panic, enlightenment, and purpose. What lay ahead? A transformation or a dismantling of everything she'd built? The thought sent her pulse racing. She realized she was no longer merely observing. She was at the door of change, on the brink of a confrontation that held the potential to redefine her, leaving behind an echoing question. Was she ready to bear the burden of this truth, regardless of where it led? Emma's thoughts spiraled as she processed the gravity of the whistleblower's revelations. The stakes felt higher than ever.
She wasn't simply gathering information anymore. She stood at the precipice of a potential movement. But could she handle the implications of what lay before her? "Are you sure we can go through with this?" she asked, her voice steadying. "Retaliation could mean severe consequences for you or for anyone who helps you." The whistleblower nodded, a flicker of resolve sparking in their expression. "I'm prepared to face it. This is bigger than me. If the truth doesn't come out, the damage will continue unchecked. People are suffering at due course." Emma felt her heart racing again. It was one thing to hear about wrongdoing, it was another thing entirely to be on the cusp of unveiling it. This deeper commitment transformed her fear into something more substantial, an anchor point. She realized this was not just an opportunity to further her own ambitions, it was a chance to become a part of something much larger. "Let's draw up a plan," Emma suggested, her mind racing with possibilities. "We need to document everything carefully. The more structured we are, the harder it will be for them to dismiss us." They nodded, her conviction clearly resonating. Over the next half hour, Emma sketched out a blueprint detailing how to approach their findings, considering both the internal and external pressures they would face. Each detail amplified her growing sense of purpose. No longer was she a reluctant participant, she was a strategist. As they discussed the logistics, Emma felt a discovery growing within her. She possessed skills she had previously underestimated. Her technical expertise, analytical mindset, and programming background weren't just tools for development. They could be wielded as protective armor in this new battle. Taking a moment to breathe, she contemplated the legal ramifications ahead. We might need legal counsel. There are rights and protections for whistleblowers that we must understand fully. "Yes, but they will try to discredit us," the whistleblower countered. "We need more than legal knowledge. We need advocates who believe in us."
Our cause. Emma couldn't ignore the coil of anxiety tightening in her chest. What if they encountered opposition that surpassed her expectations? Each scenario brought an avalanche of doubt. What if she didn't hold the strength to endure the fallout? But then she remembered Sarah's words about being part of a network. Perhaps this is where I lean on my contacts. We can reach out to advocacy groups that specialize in corporate ethics. They may have methods to support us and amplify our voice. "Good idea," the whistleblower agreed, slowly leaning back in their chair with a faint smile. "Your knowledge trumps fear. We'll figure out the details together." That promise recentered Emma. Each tactical discussion etched her resolve deeper into the soil of her emerging identity. She felt stronger, supported not just by her own convictions, but by a shared purpose echoing between them. As the conversation transitioned into brainstorming potential allies, a sinister thought creeped into Emma's mind. What if due course had already caught wind of their actions? They were playing a dangerous game. Each wrong step could mean exposing the whistleblower or jeopardizing the credibility of what they were building together. The cafe began to empty around them, unnoticed by Emma, as her focus narrowed in on the escalating stakes. The conflict was no longer abstract. It pulsated in the air like an electric current. Her phone buzzed violently in her pocket, pulling her from her thoughts. A message popped up from Sarah. "Are you okay? You sound intense." With a quick glance at the whistleblower, Emma knew she had to address her friend's concern without betraying their plans. Unanswered questions churned in her mind. Who could she trust? What if the moment called for her to conceal truths in the name of a greater fight? A heavy weight pressed against her chest, forcing clarity in what she needed to do next. She had to confront her own position, not just as a participant, but as a voice and an activist, if that's where this path led. Emma's eyes found the window, her reflection blending with the busy street outside. This was a moment of awakening, a crucial transition into an unknown realm. She began to formulate a plan, set up a network for evidence sharing, and ensure the whistleblower's safety. But with determination came a dawning realization. The deeper she ventured into this darkness, the more difficult it would become to retrace her steps. Emma steeled her heart as she typed a response to Sarah, determined to keep her friend in the loop while protecting the risks that loomed over her and the whistleblower. In this unfolding saga, one question pierced the air sharper than any other. Was she prepared to stand firm when shadows loomed at her back? The thought lingered like smoke in the room, and for the first time, Emma felt the weight of her burgeoning resolve that was now entangled with an undeniable fear. What awaited her on the other side? Of that darkness? Planning the next steps consumed Emma's thoughts on the way home. Each idea seemed to clash with another, a cacophony of conflicting possibilities fighting for precedence in her mind. The moment she reached her apartment, she sank onto the sofa, laptop open before her, its bright screen illuminating the uncertainty swirling in her gut. She needed to gather information, not just from the whistleblower, but also from others. The thought of reaching out to her colleagues brought a fresh wave of anxiety. How could she explain what she had learned, the stakes involved, without raising immediate suspicion? Each potential contact presented a risk, and the weight of that weighed heavily on her chest. Determined to forge ahead, Emma began researching advocacy groups specializing in corporate ethics. As she scrolled through results, a name jumped out at her: Citizens for Accountability. With a quick search, she found an email address and steeled herself. Reaching out meant stepping well beyond her comfort zone into unknown territory. Crafting the message felt monumental. Emma typed and deleted, rephrased and restructured, unsure of how to convey her urgency while maintaining clarity. This wasn't just a corporate grievance, it was a plea for structure, support, and concrete action. After what felt like an eternity, she hit send, her heart racing. A small yet loud part of her screamed to retract the email at that moment. What if this was all a mistake? But another part of her insisted this was the way forward, each click solidifying her choice to embrace the path ahead. Following her instinct, she turned to her network, intent on making discreet inquiries. Each conversation wove the tapestry of her resolve tighter, binding her more strongly to her purpose. Yet, as she developed the plan, a creeping doubt nagged at her. What if her intentions inadvertently harmed the very people she sought to protect? Her phone buzzed again, this time a call from Sarah. "Hey, I just wanted to check in. You sounded a bit off earlier." Emma hesitated, her thoughts tumbling. Did she reveal her new reality, or did she shield her friend from the escalating chaos? What would it mean to let someone in without knowing how deeply this would affect them? "Everything's fine," she replied, forcing a calm she didn't fully embody. "Just some work stuff. You know how it gets." Sarah's voice brightened with familiar warmth. "You know I'm always here if you need to talk. Just don't hesitate, okay?" "Yeah, of course." The comfort of her friend's concern wrapped around her like a protective cloak, but a layer of guilt settled in. She was keeping secrets, influencing their dynamics in ways she hadn't imagined. Deep down, she questioned what loyalty looked like when shadows pulled behind her. With the call over, Emma turned her focus inward. Reflecting on her previous hesitance was revealing. She was good at solving problems, navigating through code, deconstructing complex systems. Why had she doubted her capacity to work through this challenge when she had done so and more in her professional life? Everything felt magnified now, but her analytical mind fought to reclaim control. She was nearing a critical understanding. Her experiences and skills weren't merely technical. They were now essential to navigating this murky world where information is power. Fired up by this revelation, Emma began constructing a flowchart, mapping out each contact, timeline of actions, and considerations necessary to move forward without losing clarity in the chaos. Each node on the chart represented a small victory, a step closer to unveiling the truth she knew was vital. As the hours faded, a sense of purpose eclipsed her fear, grounding her in something undeniable. Emma was building a foundation from which she could act, rational, deliberate action that countered the uncertainty clouding her mind. She saw herself as not just reacting, but strategizing. Her mind became a relentless hive of activity. Yet, at the base of this evolution lay one truth: the stakes had never been higher. Did she truly acknowledge the lengths she would have to go to protect herself and the whistleblower? The thought simmered beneath her renewed determination, evoking a cocktail of emotions simmering just under her controlled exterior. Night folded around her like a shroud, the darkness outside mirroring the uncertainties ahead. As she glanced at the flowchart, her heart pounded with anticipation and fear. Each line drawn was a decision made, but with every choice came potential peril. The question loomed larger now than ever. Would her newfound strength be enough to guide her through the labyrinth she was determined to navigate? In that silence, a knock erupted from her door, reverberating through her thoughts. Who could it be at this hour? An unsettling blend of apprehension and curiosity washed over her. Emma stood, uncertain but steeling herself for whatever awaited her. Emma hesitated as the knock reverberated in her chest, each beat echoing a mix of fear and determination. She glanced at the flowchart she meticulously created, its neatly plotted paths and potential decisions suddenly feeling insignificant against the unknown presence outside her door. What was vulnerability, if not this moment? With a deep breath, she trudged toward the door, her heart racing. The chill in the hallway intensified as she twisted the doorknob. Squeezing her eyes shut for a fleeting second, she swung the door open. Standing there was a figure she didn't expect, Mark, a colleague from the office who had shown a penchant for navigating the internal power dynamics within the company. His expression was cautiously curious, but his eyes hinted at something deeper, a recognition of the gravity that shadowed their world. "Emma?" he asked, uncertainty cloaking his tone. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." Fighting back the instinct to retreat, she stepped aside, allowing him entry. "Not at all. I wasn't expecting company." "Yeah, I gathered that." He scanned her apartment, scanning the cluttered living space, the half-finished flowchart glaring from the coffee table. "Can we talk?" A pulse of trepidation surged within her. She sensed the underlying reason for his visit. He must have felt the tension at work, too. "Sure, take a seat," she gestured, her voice steadier than she felt. As they settled, Emma grasped every opportunity to peer at Mark while keeping her own emotions masked. He initiated the conversation. "I haven't been able to shake the feeling that something's off at the office lately. Have you noticed?" She nodded, weighing her words carefully. Her mind raced. How to navigate this without revealing the delicate threads she was caught in? "There have been some changes, not all for the better." Mark leaned in, his expression sharpening. "There's more at play, isn't there? I can sense it. Is there anything you're involved in that I should know about?" His directness took her aback. Elements in his character resonated with her instinct for analytical thought, but something hinted at deeper motivations. Resistance bubbled within her. Could he be trusted, or was this a cleverly disguised trap? "Honestly, I'm not sure how much I can say." She paused, the weight of her role suffocating. "But I'm exploring avenues to address some ethical concerns. It's complicated." A smirk played on his lips, one that disarmed her apprehension. "You're onto something bigger than the average workplace issue, aren't you? I knew you had it in you, Emma." Flashes of self-doubt clouded her vision. Could Mark be a strategic ally or merely testing her resolve? "If I seek help, it could backfire," she admitted. Each word felt explosive, nearly igniting the tightrope she was balancing on. "Or it could be the step you need to protect yourself and others," he countered, his voice steadier now. "I'm willing to help. Think about it. You might not have to navigate this alone." His proposal struck a nerve, feeding into a growing sense that she was not just fading into the shadows. As enticing as it seemed, the risk involved was enormous. It threatened everything she was striving to uncover. She had worked tirelessly to build a strategy, and delegation could peel away layers of control she had built up. "Why are you interested?" she probed, suspicion lacing her inquiry. "What's your angle?" "Because this is about more than just you," he replied, honesty flashing across his expression. "I care about the integrity of this place. It's too important to let it crumble without a fight." Did she dare trust him? Her instincts screamed she could leverage his knowledge and connections, but was she prepared to share her vulnerability, to intertwine their fates? Emma found herself at the crossroads, a pivotal decision that could either fortify her journey or unravel it entirely. The risk of collaboration was a gamble that could mean triumph or catastrophe. "Let's find a way to work together," she finally said, her spine straightening with resolve. But resolve wouldn't shield her from the future's uncertainties. Mark's smile widened, signaling the start of a partnership, yet a sense of foreboding lingered. Would they be able to adapt to
the volatile unknown they were about to plunge into, or was this the very beginning of a far deeper web of deception? As they strategized their next steps, a chill swept through the room. Shadows seemed to flicker around them, suggesting unseen observers. Who was monitoring their actions? Just as the weight of impending collaboration settled in her gut, another knock echoed through the apartment, delegating her focus once again to the door. "Who else could this be?" Emma murmured, her heart echoing an icy rhythm. The answer loomed with unsettling clarity. Whatever waited on the other side might change everything. Emma's mind raced as she exchanged glances with Mark, the tension palpable. That indicative silence, stretched by uncertainty, hummed in the air. With one cautious step, she moved toward the door again, the wood feeling heavier beneath her touch as she reached for the knob. She opened it to reveal a different face, Sarah, her manager, known for playing her cards close to the chest. Her eyes swept across the room, taking in the scene before settling on Emma. "We need to talk," Sarah said, her tone clipped and urgent. "Now?" Emma hesitated, glancing back at Mark, whose expression mirrored her own apprehension. "Yes, now. This can't wait. Can we go somewhere private?" Emma nodded stiffly, her earlier resolve shaken. She led Sarah to her small kitchen, a space already cluttered with her thoughts, charts, and unanswered questions. Mark remained behind, eyes trained on Emma for guidance, but she needed to face this challenge alone, skeptical of what information Sarah brought. "Emma," Sarah began, her voice sharp as a knife, "I'm hearing rumors about you and Mark, something about a plan to investigate irregularities at the office. Is that true?" Emma felt the walls closing in, the air thickening with the weight of her secret. "I'm just exploring options," she stammered, unwilling to lay all her cards on the table. "Look, I admire your ambition, but this isn't the right path. You've got to let this go," Sarah implored, leaning closer. Her demeanor shifted, revealing an unexpected softness. Emotions flickered behind her guarded exterior. Was it concern or a desire to protect her own interests? Emma felt a swell of anger and frustration. It had taken courage to even contemplate pushing for change. "Why should I abandon it? Things are wrong, and you know that." A moment of silence passed as Sarah scanned Emma's expression. "Because taking that path could ruin your career before it even begins." There it was, the classic warning draped in the guise of advice. But was it genuine concern or merely a preemptive strike to protect her own standing? Emma's pulse quickened, thoughts igniting like sparks in dry grass. "So you're telling me to stay silent? To do nothing?" "Be smart about this," Sarah warned. "You're not just dealing with office politics. You're flirting with powerful people who won't hesitate to suffocate any dissent." She detected the trembling undercurrent of fear in Sarah's voice, a revelation that those in power operated more manipulatively than she could imagine. Did they sense her exploration already? Could they be watching from the shadows, just like Mark indicated? As Sarah stepped back, the fraying threads of Emma's strategy snapped into focus. Thoughts whirled. What if Mark was right about needing help? Together, they could uncover the truth, but trust loomed precariously over the decision. Could Mark and Sarah's interests be harmonized, or were they inherently opposed? "I appreciate your concern, but I can handle this," Emma asserted finally, her voice steadier than it felt. "And I'm not willing to let fear dictate my choices." Sarah's eyes narrowed, but Emma could see the battle of emotions playing within her. This confrontation would shape Emma's path, conformity or rebellion. One path would secure her present comfort, the other could alter the course of her career and perhaps her very identity.
I hope you know what you're doing, Sarah said quietly, turning to leave. Mark's expression remains guarded as he waited in the living room, tension crackling between them like static electricity. Emma considered how a brief conversation with Sarah had unveiled her own resolve, yet left her more exposed than before. We need to move quickly, Mark said, sensing the shift in her determination. Whatever's happening is bigger than we realize. Right, Emma replied, her introspection sharpened by Sarah's words. She hadn't anticipated this level of risk, but now the stakes were crystal clear. As they prepared to strategize, a flush of adrenaline coursed through her veins. The embers of defiance glowed brightly, ready to spark into action. But her heart sank momentarily. There were unseen allies and foes that could shake their balance. Would her awakening lead her closer to unearthing the truth, or would it unravel her in a web of ambition and treachery? Just as their discussion wove together strategies, the hum of her phone buzzed, interrupting the fraught atmosphere. On the screen, a message preview loomed ominously. You have to see this. It's about the company. Immediately. Emma's breath hitched as uncertainty coiled in her gut. What revelation was about to change everything? Emma leaned closer to her phone, her heart pounding in rhythm with the urgency of the incoming message. What news could be so pressing? Flipping the screen open, she felt a chill wash over her as the message detailed disturbing developments about Ducors that could lead to explosive revelations about corruption and negligence. It was more than she had bargained for. This was not merely an inconvenience. This could be the catalyst to her fight for justice. Look, she said, her voice low but urgent, turning the screen toward Mark. This could be it. We might be closer to exposing Ducors than we thought. Mark scanned the message quickly, his brow furrowing in concern. Emma, this could have major implications. We need to be strategic. There's a fine line between courage and recklessness. For the first time in days, Emma felt a surge of clarity. Here was the opportunity she had waited for, a solid foundation to build upon, a chance to leverage the evidence she had pieced together with the whistleblower's help. But she still felt hesitant. This engagement was no longer just about her personal crusade. It was about the safety of everyone involved. It required a measured approach, a blend of boldness tempered by caution. Let's contact the whistleblower and set up a secure meeting, she proposed, her resolve solidifying. We need to verify this information, gauge the risks, and ensure we're protected before we decide how to proceed. Mark nodded, sensing her determination. Their combined energy framed a sense of camaraderie between them, a shared mission driving them forward. She could feel it building, a solid foundation forged from risk and resolve, frustration and purpose. As they strategized, Emma's phone buzzed again. It was another message from her contact at Citizens for Accountability, expressing interest in collaborating with them to amplify the whistleblower's findings. The dawning realization that she would not be alone ignited an ember within her. People are rallying, she said, looking up, excitement brightening her tone. We're creating something bigger than ourselves. However, self-doubt still lurked, whispering caution in her ear. Emphasis on personal safety was paramount. She needed to create a solidarity that allowed the truth to emerge without sacrificing those who dared stand with her. Just as they prepared to reach out, her laptop chimed, revealing a new document. Curious, she opened it and felt her breath catch. The whistleblower had sent over detailed accounts of corporate malfeasance, evidence meticulously compiled that was ready to be shared with legal teams and advocacy groups. This was powerful information. Her heart raced with the gravity of its potential. We have the evidence now, Emma breathed, eyes wide with excitement. If we can find the right advocates, we might turn this around. Mark leaned closer, his expression a blend of awe and concern. We need legal counsel to support this. We can't act blindly. They'll come after us harder if we aren't protected. I agree, Emma replied, her confidence solidifying. Let's finalize our next steps and reach out to... Before she could finish, the doorbell rang again, picking up the tense energy in the room. Pulses quickened. Who could it be now? Emma exchanged a quick glance with Mark. Stay alert.
Opening the door, she was met with a familiar face, Mr. Hawkins, her mentor, who looked a mix of grave and relieved to find her alive. "Emma, I've been trying to reach you. We need to talk, now." Inside, Emma guided him in, heart pounding as anticipation mounted. They huddled around her kitchen table, the atmosphere thickening as Mr. Hawkins spoke candidly. "I heard about the rumors surrounding Ducors. This isn't just concern for the people who work there. This is a potential class action suit waiting to unfold." Emma felt a mix of electricity and uncertainty. "I've been compiling stories, evidence." "That's excellent," he interjected, "but you must tread carefully. I have contacts in legal advocacy who can—"
You need representation before engaging with any media or public platforms. The room buzzed with possibility as ideas flowed between them. Emma felt the pieces of her life coming together. Her coding skills had evolved into a powerful instrument for change. After thoroughly discussing their strategy, a palpable sense of solidarity emerged. Their shared commitment to authenticity and integrity ignited a fire. All their individual journeys had coalesced into this moment, shifting Emma from a place of fear and doubt into one of action and collaboration. As they delved deeper into their plan, Emma felt her confidence burgeon like the dawn of a new day. She absorbed every strategy they discussed. After all, she was transitioning from voiceless outside observer to a powerful advocate for change. Days passed, each effort solidifying their foundation. Emma watched as the advocacy platform with the whistleblower's insights began to take shape, sparking interest and eliciting support from those yearning for justice. As the timeline advanced and the legal framework was set, Emma faced the fear that still lingered in her heart. Was she truly ready for the fight ahead? Would her courage stand firm against the impending backlash? But in that moment, she acknowledged an undeniable truth. Fear had led her here, and from here, she would use it to fuel her resilience. When the day finally arrived for her to present their findings to a larger audience, Emma stood with solid confidence. Here she was, no longer just the pizza girl. She had conquered her self-doubts and reinvented herself as an advocate. In this role, she proved that the voice of one could ignite an awakening for many. The press conference unfolded with palpable tension, yet she stood firm, articulating her message with clarity. This was not just her story, it was theirs, and together they could challenge the darkness lurking in the intersections of corporate power. As she concluded her speech, applause erupted, ringing cheers echoing in her ears, a symphony of triumph she had never dared to imagine. They saw her, they believed in her, not just the girl delivering pizzas, but the woman rising to incite change. In that moment, Emma knew she had redefined her existence. She had conquered her fears, demonstrated extraordinary growth, and cemented her position as a catalyst for change in an unforgiving world. No longer trapped by despair, she stood with the radiating glow of empowerment. Emma turned to Mark and Mr. Hawkins, their expressions reflecting pride and solidarity. "We did this together," she acknowledged, the warmth of fulfillment enveloping her heart. The journey had not just transformed her, it had opened the doorway for so many others seeking transformation, illuminating a path forged by truth and resilience. With clarity unclouded by old fears, she was ready to embrace the future. The time for change had finally arrived. The world would not forget this moment, nor would it silence the voices rising from within. Now it was your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next. Exclusive, emotional stories that inspire individual change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because your support is paramount. Comment your reactions and theories about this powerful conclusion because every insight matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this groundbreaking transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for real stories of overcoming adversity. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal stories understand the importance of standing together.